In this video I'm going to show you how to put broad plate metal ribbon down over some felt padding. If you haven't seen our other videos on this, you can check those out up here. The first one will give you an introduction to broad plate, tell you what it is, how to start and finish it and the basics of putting it down, and the second one is how to put it down in a solid shape, which is what we're going to do in this video, but with the addition of the padding. So you can check those out there if you want some more information on that. So in this one we're going to look at this piece here. So this is in the copper, and this one is over felt. So the other video is in silver. This is the flat one straight onto the surface, and then this one now has got some padding. If I just do that, you can see it's actually raised, and we can raise it up and make nice forms and nice shapes with it. So I'll show you how to do that now. So for this one I'm going to use the copper broad plate. So this is the 2mm plate, and I'm going to do it over some padding. This is an orange wool felt that matches the plate that you're going to use. So try and match up your felt just in case some of it should show through underneath. It won't, but just in case. So I've got my copper broad plate, I've got my felt, and I'm going to use a self-colour thread here, so the same colour as the plate. In the other two videos I've used a different colour, contrasting colour, so you can see what I'm doing, but now I'm going to use the actual right colour so you can see how that looks too. So I've cut my pieces of felt out, and I'm going to do 3 pieces for this so you can get a real idea of how much you can build up this felt padding. And I'm going to put them down. I put those to the side there so you can see. I'm going to put them down in the reverse order, so the small one is going to go down first, so I've got the largest one on top, so I have a nice smooth surface to work over. So I'm using single strand of thread. I'm going to run it through some beeswax. The plate is quite sharp, so this just helps to protect the thread from the sharp metal. Now for the first piece of felt, I only want to hold it in place just while I put the next one over the top, so I don't need lots of stitches on this, but just enough to hold it securely. So I've done just a waist knot and 2 small starting stitches. They're a bit fiddly because they're tiny. So there's my first piece. So I'm just going to come up to one side, stab down into the felt, and just need a couple of stitches on this to hold it in place. I'm coming on the other side now. I'll just work my way up. The 2 pieces on top will keep it in position. Like so. I'll just put one in the end, make sure it's sitting nice and flat. Then I can take my next piece, just going to position it carefully, so make sure it's evenly spaced over the top. I'm going to do the same with this one, and if you start in the middle, it just helps secure it in position and you don't have to hold it. I'm just alternating sides. Now you want to pull these stitches a little bit tighter because we want it to lie smoothly over the piece underneath, so these ones can be a little bit tighter, these stitches. Just pull them down nice and securely. And I'm going to jump to the top, put one in the corner. I think the more padding you put on, the more careful you need to be with where you put your stitches, because we're starting to create a form now, a 3-dimensional shape. Just securing it in position. By doing alternating sides, I'm just making sure that it stays even and I don't pull the whole piece over to one side. Fairly large spaces in this, because again, just to hold it in place, I'll put 2 in the corner. And one more on this side, I think. Okay, that's enough. So then the final piece on top, you can see we're creating this nice smooth shape. Now this one will actually come around either side. So I'm going to just bring my needle up right on the edge of that felt there. Allow for the curve around the shape underneath. I'm going to go opposite and do one on the other side just to check that that's okay. I'm just coming up on the outside of the felt, down into the felt. Get it secured in place first, and then you can put in extra stitches to hold it. So these are fairly large spaces between these stitches. I'll come back and fill those in. Just want to get it in the right place. If your felt padding isn't smooth, then your metal plate isn't going to be smooth either. So take the time to do this part carefully. This is the top layer now, so I want to get extra stitches in there. Make sure they're nice and neat so it pulls down evenly. Okay, I've been all the way round, it's secured in position, so I'm going to put one more stitch in between each of these stitches now. Don't want any of this felt poking through underneath, because felt doesn't have a warp and a weft thread. It's not a woven fabric, it can disintegrate a little bit, so make sure it's all stitched down so that the little fluffy bits can't come off. It's making a beautiful shape. I can see that nice curve on it. Couple at the top. Two more down the side. I think I'm happy with that. That's nice and secure. It's nice and smooth. The ends are dealt with, nothing surprising going on at the end. Those are tied down nicely. So I'm just going to finish that thread off and start a new thread. There's not much left and I would have to start in the middle of my plate, so I'd rather start the new thread now and have a nice fresh thread to work with. So again, run it through the wax just to protect it a little bit. And that's a case of putting the plate down, as I've done in the previous video, but I will show you again, because the starting and finishing are always a little bit tricky on this. So what we do is we make a little loop first, right at the bottom of this shape. Just come off the edge of the felt. I want to really make sure that I cover the felt up. I don't want to see any of it underneath the plate. So here is my copper. I'm going to bend it over and make a little hook on the end first. It's easiest to do that with your thumbnail, like so. I'm going to pull the thread underneath until it's almost disappeared, just so I've got that small hook. Let me flatten that down so you can see it. I'm going to hook the plate over it. So I've caught that and pull that down tight. And then a little holding stitch to make sure I don't lose the end of it. You can do that holding stitch straight through the felt. We're going to cover all of that up. We're not going to see it, so in the felt's fine. Now we're going to zigzag back and forth. Because we're doing a shape that doesn't get wider or narrower, we're going to do the method where we don't overlap the plate. So we have to make sure that each plate sits on top of the previous one. So I position it over to the other side, stitch straight over it, handle the plate as little as you can, fold it over, crease it, flip the whole plate to the other side. Now this is the important bit, is that this plate doesn't overlap, because if you overlap the plate it will get wider, so it needs to sit on top of the previous piece. Now when you're doing it over felt padding, you need to make sure that you come right over the felt. You don't want to see any of that, so make sure your stitches are over the top. So put another stitch in there, that sits on top of the one below. I'm going to flip it over again. Now if it does that, it's a bit curly, you can just straighten it out, just bend it back on itself a little bit. That's it. Squash it flat with your finger. You can just crease that flat by pressing it down. Want to be nice and tight to the felt so we can make the most of the height of the felt. So up above it, take my needle straight back down, just on the top of that one underneath. I want them to meet, I don't want there to be any gap. And we really make sure we cover everything up. Flip it over, crease it. Work your way up the shape, nice and close to the felt. Pull the stitches down nice and tightly. Fold it, flip the plate over. If it just jumps up like that, you can just see it jumping up. You can just put a holding stitch just to keep it in place if you find that helps you to control it a little bit easier. Nice and tight, crease, flip, hold it in position. You might just want to press that down a bit to crease it harder. Nice and close to the felt, but make sure you are actually over it. Sits on top of the previous piece, and up the shape we go. So keep your plate going all the way to the top. You get a rhythm after a while, and you find that it becomes nice and even just by practice. Get a nice even rhythm there, and it's looking rather lovely over the felt. I think you can see the height of the felt and how it makes the copper shine. I'm going to show you how to finish off, because this is the trickiest part after you've done all that work. Now make sure you cover all of your felt, so go right to the top, even if you have to put an extra turn in, an extra fold in, because you don't want to see that orange underneath. I just see a little bit there, so I'm going to go back one more time each side. Just to make sure that's covered. And I need to finish back on the right hand side so that I get a flat top to it. So I need to finish on the opposite side to the side I started, because it's like a spiral. So I need to complete the spiral back over to the other side. Now I have to cut the plate. So I'm going to put in where my needle needs to come up. So just a stitch as if you were carrying on. But this plate now needs to fold back on itself. So I need to carefully measure how much I need. So there's the edge of my shape. A little bit extra to fold back. And a sharp snip. Going to fold it back. A pair of tweezers is quite useful at this point. Make yourself a little hook, just check it's in the right place. It is. And then the way to deal with the end is to, on the top, so I need to go that way, is to take your thread and just hook it underneath, catch the hook, and then I find if you put your finger on top of it and pull that down through to the back, it stays in position, and then I'll just press it flat with my finger. My felt's covered, my shape's nice and square, and then just finish your thread. I will finish my thread on the top because I'm working on a frame for the camera, but you can turn yours over and just slide your thread underneath at the back. Like so. If you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, that would be great. You can subscribe to the channel as well. And if you press the little bell, you will get notifications of when we upload something new. And if you like this video, check out all our other Goldwork videos here. We've got lots of different techniques and lots of different kinds of goldwork for you to have a go at. Thanks for watching.